Hi, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about adding files and directories. So adding files and directories are some of the most useful tools, especially through Terminal, because you can create all sorts of different things with them, and it allows you to create a bunch of files in a really fast way. So it's a very efficient method for creating files and also removing them. So we're going to be talking about the commands in this video, but before we go forward, I just want to talk about one command that I've been using a lot, but I haven't actually given the time to explain, and it's the list command. So all you have to do is type ls, and that will list all of the files that you need for the project. So not for the project, but it will list all the files in your current working directory. So right now I have projects and work. So if I cd into my projects, for example, and if I list it, you can see that I have my website, my project website folder. So you can use that command to list all of the current files, directories, everything in the current directory that you're in. So that's just one command that you need to know. It's very simple. It doesn't have much behind it. So let's talk about actually creating folders. So folders I'm going to start with first. We should probably start calling them directories from now on. I'm sure that just let's use some correct terminology. So a directory is just a folder pretty much. It allows you to store different things. So there you go. Let's get started. So if you want to create a directory, all you have to do is use one command, mkdir, or make directory. Remember it that way. And then after that, you type the name of the folder. So let's just say I want to type, let's say, school stuff. So I'm going to type school. I'm going to use a capital letter actually. And there we go. Now if I list, you can see that I have my school folder right there. Now if I cd into school, I'm going to cd into school. Now from there, let's just see what I can do. So from here, let's say I want to make a new folder, and let's just say it's for random, let's just say service stuff. So I'm going to make a new directory, and I'm going to call it service or after school activities or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to do that, list it, and now I have a service folder inside of my school folder. So now I can cd into service, and there you go. You can see how this gets useful over time. So there you go. That's for making folders. You can do this for pretty much any situation you need it in. But let's say I want to remove these folders because you can see that I've created a bunch of folders and I don't really need them. So I'm going to cd out of here. So I'm going to cd back to my folders. I'm going to list everything. And now let's just say I wanted to remove both the school and the service folder. Now, just think about this for a second. What order should I remove it in? Should I remove school first, then service, or service first, then school? Just think about it for a second. Pause the video. Alright, so now that you've thought about it, I'm going to show you the solution. So it's actually pretty simple. In order to remove both folders, you only need to remove one, which is the top level folder. And all you have to do is type rm-rf, we'll talk about what the dash does, and then the name of the folder. So I'm going to type school. And there you go. Now if I list everything, that school folder is gone, and so is the services. So there you go. That's how you remove multiple folders in one. All you have to do is go to the top level, and once you remove it, it removes everything inside it. Files, folders, or directories. You can do all of that, and it will be finished, gone. You won't have to, go through and individually remove it. And obviously, if you want to keep a folder, for example, you should go through and remove only the ones that you want to remove. But if you're trying to remove everything inside a directory, just go ahead and remove that directory altogether. So let's talk about this command for a little bit. Now, pretty much what the flag does, it allows you to sort of alter the properties of the command. So we're going to talk about the rm command in a minute, but what -rf does is signify to the command that we're removing a directory instead of removing a file. So rm is for actually removing a file, and we'll talk about creating and removing files in a second. But these flags can be used to alter the properties of a command. So one of the most common ones is git. So let's say I wanted to check the version of git. So all of our git commands start with git. But what if I wanted to view the version? So all you have to do is --version, and that will give you the version of Git. So it's actually a very, very useful tool, these flags, and there's many of them. Usually there's 10, 20, 30 flags per top level command, and it just allows you to alter the properties of that command. Okay, so now that we've talked about flags and removing folders, let's start moving on to creating and removing files. So I'm going to talk about the difference between PowerShell and our Ubuntu shell here for a second, but let's just talk about creating files in our native Unix shell. The way to do this is touch and then the name of the file. So I'm going to do file.txt. Actually, let's just go ahead with CSV. I'm trying to show that you can do any file that you want. Now, you do have to add a file extension. You can't just create random files and expect them to be Word documents or Excel spreadsheets. It has to be a specific file. It has to be a specific file extension. So once we do that, it creates the file. So once we go ahead and list it, you can see we have file.csv. Now, I'm not going to open it with the terminal, but what touch allows you to do is create files, exes, installers, spreadsheets, any file that you want you can create through touch. Now, what if we, let's say, wanted to remove this, or I misnamed it and I don't want to go into the file explorer and go back to folders and delete it? Well, simply just use the rm command. Now, I talked about the rm command and the flag here in our directories section, but all you have to do is just type rm. You don't have to add any flags because the rm command at its core is removing files. Then you just type the name of the file, and you can also use tab complete for the rm command. So there you go. Now I'm just going to click enter, and there you go, it's gone. Let's go and check our file explorer. You can see it disappeared from there too. So there you go. That's the rm command in a nutshell. So basically, it's just a summary. To create folders, use mkdir, and to remove folders, you use touch. Now, if you want to remove them, you can either use rm for files and add the -rf or remove folder flag for directories. So now that we've done the summary, if you are on Windows, stick around. If you are on Mac or Linux or something that has a native terminal, you can go off now. But if you have Windows, I'm just going to talk about the dangers of using Windows PowerShell. So let's open this up, and I'm going to try and create the same file.csv on our desktop. So I'm going to cd into my desktop. I'm going to list everything. I'm going to cd into folders. You can also see it's a little bit different here. So I'm going to cd into my projects, for example. And now I want to try and create our file.csv. Oh, what's going on here? Something really weird happened. It says the term touch is not recognized as the name of a cmdlit function, script file, or operable program. So what this is saying is touch is not a command in PowerShell. It doesn't work because PowerShell was made to try and mimic the Unix shell, but it isn't a native terminal. It tries to sort of copy the commands, but it doesn't do a very good job at it. A lot of the commands are missed out, and obviously there's a lot more usability than something like the command prompt. So, features like ls would work on here, but on the command prompt, ls wouldn't be recognized. But how do we create files on the PowerShell? If you're still, really loyal to the PowerShell and you still want to use it, it's quite simple actually. All you have to do is type echo $null greater than, and then the name of the file. So it is a little bit more complex, but once you get it down, or if you just do a Google search for it, it won't be that hard. So now if I do file.csv, and if I'm going to list everything, you can see file.csv is right there. So now I'm just going to remove file.csv, very simply, file.csv, and there you go, it works. So you can see most of these commands are working fine, but even though it does a pretty good job of mimicking a Unix shell, it doesn't do it perfectly. And you can see one of the big flukes is the missing touch command. So that's just one of the dangers of using PowerShell. Alright, so we're finished with the adding and removing directories part, and that's pretty much all you need to know for the terminal. It's quite smooth and it doesn't really require much knowledge, but now that we know the ins and outs of the terminal, we can start moving on to some of the more important parts of this course. So Git and all of the Git commands and some of the workflow behind it. So yeah, let's move on.